Hello, Hikari. Welcome to the show. So happy to have you on today.
Thank you for having me, Moshe. I'm really excited.
Fantastic. So our traditional opening question, can you tell us what is Omneky and who do you serve?
Omneky is a generative AI company for advertisers. We generate thousands and thousands of iterations of creative content based on real-time marketing data, performance data, as well as customers' internal brand data to make sure that we're helping businesses scale their advertising very quickly while remaining brand safe and data safe.
Very cool. So we're going to touch on a lot of those topics, diving into generative AI, the future of advertising and performance marketing. But just to get a little bit more of the background on you and the company, can you tell me, how did you come up with this idea? What led you to starting Omneky?
Yeah, absolutely. So it goes back, honestly, like Omneky is my life's mission. I grew up in Westchester, New York. My grandfather worked at IBM and my dad's a painter. And so growing up, I grew up in this intersection of technology, innovate or die, Moore's law, world changes every 6 months, and also the obsession about design. How do you communicate with colors? How do you communicate with space, with texture? And so in many ways, it's a fulfillment of all these things. I studied computer science at Harvard, and I cross-registered at MIT. I'd also gone into MIT, and this was actually the particular moment when I got particularly excited about generative AI. And so about a decade ago, I was taking a course at MIT, and I saw some of the early generative AI models. It was at that time, it was kind of a more hallucinogenic, and it wasn't, the pixelization was like very off, but like understanding Moore's law, understanding kind of the rapid rate in which, the exponential rate in which technology improves, definitely thought that within the next decade, generative AI would surpass human capability of creating imagery, and then the implication of that would be pretty massive. And so that, combined with being a son of an artist, growing up in a technology family, having an obsession with technology like innovation, I realized that this was like the most exciting thing, and this would be the coolest thing to dedicate my life to. And that was the exact moment when I said, "Hey, like I want to go all in on generative AI." That said, though, at that time, I wasn't very clear what the business idea for generative AI would be. This is around 2014, 2015. And so I'd also started a couple of, I was entrepreneurial, I am entrepreneurial. I started 2 venture-backed companies in college. One of them was a friend meetup app, and the other one was a online education tutoring business. And in many ways, the things that we're working on today are kind of a continuation of the work we did on the online tutoring business. We say that advertising is really education at scale. And one of the big problems that we're solving at my second, or really like first real venture scaled company, which I decided to focus on full time after graduating. I received grants from Harvard and MIT, and we also received funding from Dorman Fund and Rough Draft Ventures, was about personalized learning. How do you understand the students' learning preferences, their interests, the problems that they're facing, and how do you match them with the right tutors and the right content to teach them in the way that empowers them and enables them the best? And so those were the kind of the problems we're working to solve at this online education company. It was ultimately acquired by another ed tech company in the Bay Area, where I led marketing. And it was really there running marketing and running the Facebook ads, running the Google ads, that I realized this particular problem related to scaling creative content and creative A/B testing. The demand for marketers and advertising for testing content is infinite. There's always more platforms to run ads on. You need content for those. There's always new products that customers want to potentially test, or new audiences they want to launch to. And all that requires a thorough A/B test creative amount of bandwidth, and human teams just aren't capable of producing that volume of content. And so that was when this kind of the stars aligned. My passion for generative AI, I've been following it ever since a decade ago in that class, playing around with Hugging Face models and all these things. And then the exact business opportunity regarding solving this creative challenge for marketers and advertisers that got me started on Omneky. And I founded Omneky May of 2018 with this vision of generating personalized ads and personalized experiences at scale.
That's really cool. So you came to it with the experience as a marketer, having managed large scale campaigns and growth efforts for the company that acquired your startup. And the problem that you were looking to solve was the ability to scale creative performance and to optimize with data, right? So you're using AI, correct me if I'm wrong, you're using AI on both sides of understanding the context within the creative, as well as understanding the performance on the analytics side, and then generating creative with the generative AI models. That's right?
Yeah, Omneky, our core IP and our technology investment is really in the intersection of data, how data translates into experiences. So we're not a pure content generation company, and we're not necessarily a pure analytics company. We translate data, which in and of itself isn't that valuable. It has to be turned into insights, it has to be turned into actions, it has to be turned into experiences, into those experiences. And so we're that translation layer between data to experiences. And so a lot of our IP and a lot of our innovations on building the data integrations with all the different data sources, whether it's with structured data from ad networks and ad platforms to unstructured data across customers' brand books and brand guidelines and customer conversations, to then translating those insights into generative experiences, starting with ads, but eventually all other experiences as well.
And you're working right now with visual ads, right? Display ads for social, as well as copy. Is that right?
Yeah. So we generate images, videos.
You do video.
Yes, we do video, we do images, and we do copy. But predominantly, it's visual assets. That's what we focus on. Visual experiences.
So, there's lots of different advertisers out there. A lot of people that are spending money on Facebook and other places. Is there a specific ICP within that you focus on, whether it's e-commerce or gaming companies or anything like that?
Yeah, the majority of our customers are e-commerce, especially the mid-market and enterprise. That is our ICP.
And you're not focused on SMB right now?
So, majority, a lot of our customers are SMB.
Okay.
We are, but they're not necessarily. So our mission is to democratize growth. And we're building tools to empower anybody, any entrepreneur, to instantly and easily connect with their customers. So we service SMBs, but we also, are focusing on selling to mid-market enterprise as well.
Did you start with the SMB and then add enterprise sales?
Yes.
Okay. Very cool. So looking into the future, what's the grand vision for the company if you're thinking like 5-10 years out?
Yeah. It's to generate all personalized experiences and powered by data. And so going back to this initial point, right? We are, in one way to view it is we're in the refinery business. We're in the business of refining data into experiences. And so using generative AI to power personalized ads in an omni-channel way. So when you're seeing an ad on Google and YouTube and Netflix and Pinterest, they're all consistent and personalized for you. And it helps brands improve their return on ad spend, as well as then making sure that when that customer gets to your landing page, gets to a customer conversation, that we're powering those experiences as well. And then the vision here is to make this as accessible as possible for every entrepreneur, so that anybody with a good idea can immediately start connecting with customers and get their ideas to market.
So let's talk about the personalization aspect of it. Do you see that as where advertising is going, that everything is going to be hyper personalized? And how does that fit with this other trend that we're seeing as it relates to privacy?
Yeah. So privacy is super important for us. And actually one of the core value tenets of the company is data security and making sure that the customer's data is remains on data. In fact, we have several offerings where customers can even deploy our models on-prem to ensure data privacy, data security, so their data is not being sent to some other company. When it comes to consumer privacy, it's also a very important thing. And this is an area where I think you just need clear regulation from kind of a industry perspective. I think the Pandora's box has been opened in terms of the the value of personalization and real-time bidding for attention is. It is one of the most lucrative innovations in capitalism, right? Having an auction for attention to display an ad instantly at the right time, at the right moment, to the right person. And so I don't think that like genie is going to be put back into the box, but it's going to be, so it's going to be a tension between regulation and kind of advancements in the industry in terms of technologically. For example, one potential trend is more things get pushed to the edge, right? So instead of having personalized data in some cloud server, these potentially for us, even we might be generating content at the edge, personalized based on data just available at the edge instead of being shared with the main cloud server, for example, right? So there are definitely like ways of implementing this technologically, but I do think personalization does work. I mean, that's how sales, regular salespeople personalize their pitches based on who they're selling to all the time, right? So like that, because it does drive higher ROI, I think that is going to continue to advance. But the way it gets implemented, I think, is a function of regulation, and that's not, that's ultimately for regulators to decide.
Yeah, I personally think that consumers prefer targeted ads. I mean, it's more relevant to me. I'd rather see an ad that's something interesting to me. And there's maybe this is a little self-serving of me to believe that, but that we're willing to make that sacrifice of a little bit of privacy or data in exchange for better ads, better experience. But that trade-off needs to be thoughtful and there needs to be honest and open. I do want to go back to you mentioned serving up the personalization on the edge. Can you elaborate on how that works? Is that done on the user's device, browser? Can you do that through Facebook, or do you need to own the end-to-end experience in order to serve that up?
Sure. So I think there's ways in which we're doing personalization today, right? And predominantly when it comes to say displaying an ad on Facebook or Meta or one of these larger ad tech platforms is, yes, targeting is more and more limited for advertisers, right? So the biggest lever that advertisers have now is creative content. And the type of creative content you upload on these platforms almost determines the distribution, right? If you produce, based on how the recommendation algorithms work on these platforms, for example, let's say that you like, for whatever reason you like penguins, right? Like an ad that contains a penguin is more likely to be shown to you than an ad that doesn't contain a penguin. And maybe there's somebody else who likes lions and somebody else who likes giraffes. And so, like, in some ways, creative is distribution, right? And so if we want to say, target people with certain interest groups, then it's very important that those pieces of content are those creative features are integrated into the content that then almost determines the targeting. In terms of edge computing and maybe the future of privacy and things like this, is I think you're going to have models at the edge. So to your point, when somebody opens up a website on their phone, or somebody goes to a website on their laptop, that potentially the content can be generated in real time based on just the edge's understanding of the consumer, but not that data being shared off the device. But I think that's a bit more in the future. But that is one way one can maintain privacy while still powering personalization. As you said, I think consumers want personalization. They also want privacy. And so to that point, though, right, like regarding the creative media distribution, that's why it's so it's so important for the marketer and for the brand to upload as many iterations of creative content as they can to expand the potential distribution of their messaging. So the more content and the more differentiated type of content you upload to these platforms, the more diverse of a set of reach, and the more greater reach that your message will be, the greater the reach. And so this is where our core value prop comes in place, which is using data to generate these thousands of iterations of ads, every week to really maximize distribution and maximize advertising ROI.
So as a marketer, am I going in, creating my brand assets, my guidelines? I have, let's say, images of the product. I have some headlines, some offers or whatever. I put it in, and then you guys take that, and algorithmically create thousands and thousands of iterations based on that?
Well, so this is the magical thing, is that we do all that. You don't even need to specify this. We'll do all that work for you, and that's done by our LLM. So what we do is we vectorize all your data. So you connect just like maybe a Google Drive file with your brand assets, or maybe even an endpoint, an API endpoint to your databases, or a HubSpot API connection, or the advertising API connection, Salesforce API integrations. We'll ingest all this data. We'll vectorize all that data and then train our LLMs on this data. So in some ways, and the hope is that our AI can potentially understand your brand as well as you do. We can take, for example, a customer conversation that's happening on Zendesk. Maybe there's some strengths and weaknesses that are being revealed about the product through a customer conversation. We can immediately turn that into a scaled out advertising and marketing campaign instantly, right? That's the product that that's really the power that LLMs provide to scale messaging, scale advertising, scale these creative experiences while ensuring that they remain brand safe.
Fascinating. But you're also ingesting the data from the ad networks, so you then feed that back into iterating on performance.
Yep. Exactly. So the base understanding of the brand is based on our LLM, which when you onboard, we request access to, if you're comfortable with your CRM platforms and your CDP platforms and your content management tools, we'll vectorize all this data to develop a model custom for you that deeply understands your brand. And that's in real time. Every time you update the data, our LLM also gets updated. And then we use that as a base to generate personalized creatives, personalized ads, creative briefs. That's a big component as well of our offering. We generate personalized creative brief for you with a mood board that you can then send to maybe a creative partner that you may have that you enjoy working with, some high-end agency that does beautiful slick ads that cost a lot of money. We can help you generate those requests as well as provide unique insights about what's working for who and why.
Very cool. We like to define terms here, so just for clarity's sake. So LLM is large language model.
Language model, yeah.
What models are you using under the hood? Are they proprietary? Are you built on top of GPT-3 and GPT-4? What are you using?
Yeah, these are proprietary models. Customers can also have an option to use GPT-4 if they want. We also have some llama models, minified models, and it really depends on the customer's okayness to sharing that data with, say, Microsoft. If they're not okay with sharing that data, then we'll have to we can deploy proprietary models, custom LLMs as well, and that's really dependent on the customer and their needs.
Aside from the privacy aspect, and of course that's a concern when sharing data with OpenAI, it's in their terms of service that they have access to that. So of course that is one of the benefits of building your own proprietary models. Are there other pros and cons that you consider as you're thinking about your product roadmap and what you're offering to your customers, whether to build on top of third-party kind of foundational models or to build your own?
Yeah, today foundation models do outperform these fine-tuned models. I think the fine-tuned models, though, are ultimately, there have definitely been instances where it's been shown to perform on par. And the way I like to visualize this very fine-tuned kind of solidified LLMs versus these massive foundation models is like a baby's brain has like a trillion neuronal connections, right? And as you grow and mature, you prune those connections and you have fewer. Your adult brain has fewer connections, but they're more specialized and they're definitely better at specific tasks than, say, a baby or a teenager. Right, but a teenager or baby has infinite potential in things they can learn, and or a lot of potential in terms of things that they can learn. They're like decently generalists at anything, and they can pick things up quickly. That's the same way I view kind of these, fine-tuned LLMs, minified LLMs versus the foundation models. The foundation models are kind of like experts at everything, or like experts at everything but experts at nothing kind of thing. Like they're kind of savants at everything. These fine-tuned LLMs can actually be fine-tuned to be experts in specific categories. And so I do think that ultimately every business will have custom fine-tuned LLMs for every single kind of business need, a business department. And then, they may use these foundation models in other instances.
It's funny you say that analogy. I just heard the founder of, darn, I can't remember the name of the company. Anyway, it was on Jason Calacanis's podcast and talking similar to that. The foundational models are, kind of like the baby that has all this potential and as a generalist, and then you have these specialized models that will become really, really good at one thing, right? Or exactly. What about the where the value accrues in this space? And I just saw Keith Rebois, very successful founder and investor. He says that the generative AI space is not going to yield returns to VCs. I don't know if you saw that controversial hot take from him. Combination of because of barriers to entry and where the value accrues, but
I'm sure they said that about the internet and Microsoft, right? But then Google and Facebook and Salesforce all blew up subsequently, and Amazon blew up subsequently. I'm sure in the early days of the internet, it seemed like Microsoft would take everything as well. So, I think we're still in the very early innings here. I do think that NVIDIA hitting $1 trillion in valuation is a good precursor. It's kind of like when Cisco hit their insane market cap in the 90s. This is going to be a multi-decade wave of innovation, new companies, and it will disrupt and it will displace incumbents. That's disruption. LLMs or not LLMs, generative AI or not generative AI is just the name of game in capitalism. And so, some big companies will compete in this new environment, others won't. And I don't think it's, I don't think the answer is stasis or that, it's going to just be the big companies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's again, probably the best analogy here is again like Microsoft and the internet. Like I think at a certain point in the 90s, it seemed like Microsoft would, capture. They had the Internet Explorer and they're competing with, with Netscape, and it seemed like, oh my god, the big tech companies are gonna, take over. And IBM was doing very well, and yes, but ultimately you had all these new tech companies. So I think it's a bit early to say, but I'm always on the side of innovation, always on the side of new players, and generally against the side of stasis. And I think we live in a vibrant world, and that is the rich world that capitalism provides, right? It
right.
Opportunities for people who are innovative and create new products.
Yeah, I'm optimistic on that as well. I do think that there will be a lot of value created, but I also think that there will be a lot of value destruction simultaneously. And picking winners is a tough game, right? That's why if you're good at it, you make a lot of money. But it's hard in this space. So how do you think about, I talked about competition a little bit. In AI, every day, hundreds of startups are being founded, right? And everybody's claiming to be AI now. How do you think about the competitive landscape and creating defensibility for your product, for your company?
Yeah. So, the way we view the way we view competition, defensibility, and again, the analogy here I like to make is back into the early 1990s internet boom, which I think is probably kind of a good example here. In the early 1990s, the biggest, the fastest growing companies were towards the end, the most valuable company was Yahoo, right? And Yahoo didn't necessarily have any inherent moat other than other than their brand, right? Like they had this army of contractors that label the web, and kind of like what OpenAI is doing with their RLHF. They had this army of contractors like labeling the web and creating these various lists, and that's how they established an amazing brand and grew so quickly. And that was enough to get them to a certain to becoming one of the most valuable companies. And I think especially in an area where there's a lot of noise, like the internet in the 1990s or generative AI today, I think there is a lot of value in brand. I think there's also a lot of value in data. Data is the kind of bedrock in which generative AI and AI is trained on. And so if you build great data workflows, have access to proprietary data, build great products that incorporate data into the creative workflows, whether that is in marketing or advertising or in other areas, bio, genetics, et cetera. Like those will be massive moats as well. And I think, just ultimately at the end of the day, it's about just building great products. Like I think people sometimes overthink moats a little too much. And at the end of the day, I think, just build a great product. And I'm sure if you build a great product and it scales very well, and It has a lot of users. There will inherently be network effects and scale effects associated with building a great product that customers love, and definitely brand effects. And you can always build these moats as well later. The most important thing for entrepreneurs is just to build great products that just are 10 times better than the existing alternatives out there. And with generative AI, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit for building 10x better products. And so if you're just focusing on that, I think is like my suggestion to entrepreneurs. For VCs, I mean, I'm not a VC, so
right. No, you're right. I think that customer obsession beats competitor obsession, right?
Yeah.
If you focus on your customer and deliver great value, you have a lot of opportunities for success down the road.
I mean, this is the whole reason why I'm kind of the whole AI doomerism and things. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, because capitalism ultimately rewards building great experiences for consumers, and like that isn't going to change, right? And so, companies are predatory. Companies that aren't providing real value for customers ultimately don't survive, don't exist. They either get regulated out of business, or they just receive such a blowback that they lose all their customers. I mean, what the beauty of creative destruction and capitalism is that it rewards value creation for the average consumer. And so, as long as we live in a democratic capitalist world, I'm generally, optimistic about any new technology wave that will benefit humans. And so, yeah.
Generally, I am a techno optimist, and I would like to agree with you, but I think that there are risks here that are unparalleled in examples from history in terms of how quickly can we react to some negative effects. But I do think that the doomerism is, it's fear mongering, a lot of it, right? People are selling.
It's not even fear mongering. This is the funny thing about AI, right? Like AI was like a term invented by researchers to receive government funding. Like the concept that this was invented, the kind of initial, these are like from Dartmouth, right? Like in the 1960s. And it was really, afraid, like, we're going to create artificial intelligence, and this is a thing that's always been promised. And what AI has changed over time, from like regressions to now deep learning and transformers and such. But one has to directly connect what AI is as a concept to directly related to funding, right? And that actually AI doomerism, who is the people publishing all these AI doomer articles? It's the researchers. Why are they doing that? Because it benefits their funding, right? Like the more you can magnify, overhype AI, the more funding you're going to receive. And so it is actually, when I hear this news, like, XYZ, leading researcher talks about AI doomerism. Yes, that's what they've been doing their entire career. That is what the AI industry does. They hype up AI to receive to receive financing, to advance technology, to build great products and advance the field. But it's like always kind of had this contention of overhype and doomerism, and kind of overstating the capabilities, because AI in of itself, like, it is an invention. It is fundamentally, like, the concept is fundamentally a fundraising invention.
Yeah, I'm on the side of those who create, those who have vision for the future and want to build a better place, and that's why we're in the startup game, right?
Yeah.
To build. But let's take that rabbit hole just a little bit further. I'm curious about your vision for how AI changes work in general for the average person. There's going to be job displacement. There's going to be redundancy. How does that affect the average worker? How does that affect the economy? And I'm not talking about 30 years from now, in the next 3 years or so.
It's really interesting. I read this news recently that there are actually today more people working in PR this year than there are prior to ChatGPT, right? It's like people talk about ChatGPT and generative AI replacing PR jobs and marketing roles. There are actually more marketers now, more people working in marketing. Why is it? Because AI empowers marketers. AI empowers PR people. It creates more leverage for them. It helps them actually create more value and drive more productivity from their work. And so if they can increase their productivity, then there's more demand for their jobs. If you can get one, where else you need to have 10 marketers to do 1x of work. Now, each marketer can do 10x work. I would hire, that means 10x more revenue, 10x more customers. I'll hire more. I'm going to hire more people who can do those things. And so, I believe that generative AI and AI is a democratizing force. I think it empowers humanity. I think it's going to create more jobs and displace jobs. And again, if you can improve the productivity of certain kinds of work, it will only increase the demand for those kinds of jobs. So yeah, like I think we're gonna live in a more creative world. We're gonna live in a more innovative world with more compelling products because it's democratizing everything. It's democratizing the ability for any startup to build AI products and go to market and enrich their experiences with AI. That means us as consumers benefit in a myriad of ways, from using digital products to genetics to medicine to healthcare to everything. And then if the ROI of all these things improve, then there's gonna be more demand for them, as well as create new kinds of jobs, right? Like today maybe it's labeling and prompt engineering. Tomorrow probably other things, but like it's also going to create new categories of jobs. So but yeah, I think it was really interesting, this particular metric, that there are actually more marketers. There's actually been like a growth in marketing roles over the past year, in spite of the whole generative AI craze, is actually a reflection that it actually creates more jobs and empowers more of these more jobs and people than it displaces.
Care to predict how it will change the structure of marketing teams in large, mid-sized companies, large organizations? What new roles are needed, and how are roles going to be looked at differently with the power of AI?
Yeah, I think marketing is going to be turned from more of a kind of like a cost center and like a brand oriented thing into really more of a revenue driver and performance. It doesn't, and this is something one of the things we tell our customers is, you used to have a huge team of salespeople to do direct emails and cold calls. It's not very effective anymore, right? And in fact, the ROI of, say, hiring a salesperson, like a seat, to send a cold email, like what is the cost of an impression, right? To see like an email headline from a sales rep, the cost of hiring that rep to write that email and send it to you, pretty expensive, right? What is the cost of showing you an ad and then having you click on that ad? It's substantially higher ROI than higher, and then the ad can actually also be attributed and directly be correlated to sales. And actually, the ad can be much richer in terms of the way it communicates an idea to you, communicates a value prop to you. And so I actually think marketing departments probably get larger. I think we're going to see potentially more marketing taking over a lot of the sales capabilities. And obviously, it's going to change. The nature of marketing is going to change as the ways in which humans communicate with each other changes. But demand generation is a core component of capitalism, and that's not going to go away anywhere anytime soon. There's always going to be new innovative products, and there's always going to be a need to communicate those new products to new consumers, and so I think also, again, you have smaller teams be able to market earlier, and then you'd have larger companies be able to market much more sophisticatedly.
No, I meant to ask you earlier, you talked about the endless possibility of variations and personalization when it comes to the generative creative. How does that work from a oversight and compliance, especially in industries like finance or healthcare, where you have to know exactly what is being put in front of customers? Do you have those guardrails built in? Is there human oversight in the ads that are being pushed out?
Yeah, so brand safety is definitely by far one of our modus operandi. It's one of the core value props we sell to customers. I think, in fact, that's, if anything, going to be one of the core value props of what powers Omneky going forward, right? I mean, yes, you can hopefully trust Meta to run and generate ads for you, but do you really trust a company that's purely focused just on maximizing their usage? You're going to need to have an independent company to ensure brand safety across different platforms. And we do this in two ways, right? I mean, the first way, and this is one of the very first features we launched, was approval. So customers have to approve every ad that is launched today on their behalf. And we have a collaborative tool where anybody, we have many stakeholders can log in and provide feedback, comment, approve on the ads, whether it's the legal team or the marketing team or the brand team, to make sure that every piece of content that's released is on brand. And then the second innovation is really the LLM. The LLM will deeply understand the brand, and because over time, our customers will be able to trust the LLM more, that everything that is being communicated on their behalf is brand safe, it is on brand, and hopefully the goal is that the LLM hopefully can understand that company potentially as well, if not better than they do, right? I mean, a human marketer cannot go through all the customer support conversations and go through all the performance data and advertising and synthesize this all together to create a marketing campaign. But an AI can do this today. And so that means we can create more effective content that is more on brand, faster, at scale, and safe. That's really what the potential of what our product and technology has for our customers.
Fantastic. Let's rewind, going back to the early days of Omneky. How did you get your first 10 customers? And at what point did you know, or maybe there wasn't an exact moment, but when did you think to yourself that we have product market fit, we're on the right track here?
Yeah. So the first 10 customers were predominantly through my network of friends, entrepreneurial friends. Being a serial entrepreneur, I have a lot of founder friends who were willing to entrust small marketing budgets to me. I also, being based in San Francisco, is a massive benefit. I would literally go to every single startup event, and then after the event, go to the founder and pitch Omneky, and then some of them would give us a shot, and that definitely got us going forward. I think early on, also very lucky. I was part of Village Global, which is like a great network of as well, and they introduced us to customers. And so just through the network was through the kind of initial customers building and refining the MVP and the product. I think we really hit an inflection point around 2020. So that was in 2018. So 2018, 2020 is just building the product, iterating the product, talking to customers, just being really lean and scrappy, and also just surviving, getting your story out there, getting your messaging out there, getting data, getting access to different APIs, advertising APIs. And then 2020, I think, was an inflection point. I think, especially with COVID, suddenly every company out of the blue had to pivot to digital. Even companies that weren't advertising digitally, everyone realized something like the only way I can connect with customers is through digital ads. That created a massive tailwind for our business that then resulted in a massive inflection of growth for us. At the same time, we came at a nice inflection point with, particularly at that point, like around GPT-2, GPT-3 was getting very good. The initial product was built on GPT-1 and BERT and some of these other transformer models. But with 2020, these models were getting very good in generating copy. And so that was kind of the moment where, when there's like that market interesting quote, right? Like when the market, you feel like the market is pulling an incomplete product from you, that's really when you have that feeling of product market fit. And I think we felt that starting in 2020, early 2020.
And I'd imagine it accelerated all the more so towards the end of last year when suddenly AI just exploded on the landscape for everybody.
Yes, absolutely. And then suddenly ChatGPT and DALL-E and all these companies, the products did a great job educating the market on what AI can do. And so that then definitely was another massive tailwind for us as well.
What about TechCrunch Disrupt? You were on stage there at the startup battlefield. How did that go? What was that experience like?
Yeah, I mean, so this is the thing. We were the only generative AI company that was a finalist at TechCrunch Disrupt last year, right? We were ahead of the wave. This is before DALL-E, Stable Diffusion, ChatGPT, all these other kind of things that blew up.
I think you'll be hard pressed to find one that isn't this year.
Yeah, not every company is going to be a generative AI company
exactly
on the big stage. But last year we were the only generative AI company that was pitching on stage, that was finalist, and so gosh, that was such a massive. I mean, TechCrunch Disrupt. I watched. I'm a massive fan of Silicon Valley, and it's just kind of it's just the big.
The pinnacle moment for a founder, yeah.
Startup. Yeah, exactly. I was dreaming of pitching, on stage, and so it was, I was so excited. It was like what a great company, what a great brand, what a great publication, and they do so much for the startup ecosystem as well. And so it was so exciting to be able to participate in that, and I think it definitely
helpful. Was it helpful from a customer acquisition standpoint, or more for awareness with the VCs?
it was definitely helpful in terms of customer acquisition standpoint. I mean, it definitely is like, star of approval in a sense of like badge of approval in a sense of like, we are like a legit tech company that's like presenting, it's not just, like it definitely adds legitimacy to the company to be up there presenting the product. And so, yeah, definitely massive benefit for sales as well.
Awesome. So moving on to other ways that you've acquired customers over the years, and I'm assuming that you're dogfooding your product and using Omneky to run a lot of your advertising. So can you give us a little bit of insight into what you've learned along the way from a customer acquisition standpoint using performance marketing and other channels that perhaps you've experimented with?
Yeah. So, the vast majority of our customers come through either referrals or through our own ads. We dogfood our own product. We've from very early on, this probably also due to the constraint of being like essentially bootstrapped for the first couple of years. We had to develop a profitable growth model very quickly, and so we run our own ads very profitably, and have been, especially in the early years when we were bootstrapped in the business, we would actually just reinvest the margins back into growth, and so that was very key in terms of how we think about it in terms of art of channels. I think we think very hard about like the return on ad spend. When you work in advertising, you almost view everything in terms of like the ROI of attention, right? And so some channels are longer in terms of the ROI of attention. So potentially SEO content, if you do it very well, can produce ROI for that attention and for that content. But sometimes take some time for those pages to get ranked and linked. Also, it is very competitive. The ranks are always changing. Direct response being one of the most immediate ROI things, to partnerships, to affiliate marketing, etc. We all kind of view it in terms of like, what is the dollar being spent? How also easy is it to attribute that revenue? Like, some platforms may be good, but harder to attribute. In which case, it's like billboards being one example of like a very difficult to attribute platform, or like out of home like advertising. So it's a combination of ROI, attribution, like the ability to attribute, and then like the time frame of the ROI. That all kind of goes into the mix of how we decide to like divvy up our advertising marketing budgets. Sorry.
That all makes sense. You mentioned SEO. As a marketer and as someone who is deeply embedded in the generative AI space, how do you think SEO is going to change over the next couple of years? Of course, Google recently released their generative AI features on top of search. Bing is being powered by ChatGPT already for several months now. Where do you think SEO goes in the next few years?
Yeah, I think the way obviously SEO is going to change, right? In the sense that like you're not gonna when you ask a question to Google, you're not going to necessarily get a link, less links anymore. You're going to get some kind of answer, but that will link to pages. Google will link. They will, because at minimum they're going to link it to their other pages. They're going to link it to their YouTube so that they can make money from the ads from YouTube, or they're going to link it to their hosted, the web pages that host their ads, so that they can then make money that they're losing from the search, the SEM. The SEM revenue they're going to lose, they're going to try to recoup it from their ad networks, both on YouTube and their like blog posts and pages, right? So they're going to link to those pages. But like, therefore, the way that these links get recommended in a generative AI world is going to be different. I mean, partly it's going to be SEO based. Google does, is going to rank who is the biggest expert in a certain chance or a certain kind of question, or the most relevant to answering a question, and they'll link that page. There'll probably be a preference for pages that have their ads, but not, there's a long tail of questions that may not have their ads, in which they're still going to potentially link those pages, or maybe just pull the pages, summarize them, and just show it. So it's I think a lot of this is going to be up to Google. Like it's not necessarily like it's Google's way of indexing the web, and so I think the way they recommend the links are going to be different. When they recommend the links are going to be different, but that's a lot of that is still to be determined. And a lot of it is still up in the air. I think, and then there's a lot of regulatory things as well, right? So hard to say. But SEO, obviously, as we all can agree, is going to change. And the ROI of SEO also dubious. Like, what is the it might have made sense in the early 2000s to invest a lot in SEO to make sure that your page was ranked because everybody was using Google to Google search to discover the web. But going forward, when there's a lot of competing chatbots that you have your own chatbot that's doing tasks for you and answering questions for you, the way that the web is categorized is going to change. And so,
it's interesting. I was talking to a friend who's has a digital marketing agency, and I was sharing something similar, that the future of SEO may not be optimizing to users; it's optimizing to bots, right? To user agents, and also conversion rate optimization will also follow a similar path. Where if I can just tell my agent, my bot, to hey, get me a pair of shoes. It knows my preferences, knows my size, and knows my style. It'll go find a deal and go through that process on its own. It doesn't need a human intervention. So that experience on the retailer side is very different.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the default search engine that you choose to include it when the bot is searching the web is going to matter. And then also bots don't buy products, so like the ads potentially that get shown to those bots also again that changes the potential monetization of search as well. So presumably bots ignore the ads. So like, I think it's gonna be very interesting. But to your point, I mean, I think for now, when we're all programming agents, the agent still does, for us at least, we're programming agents to do competitor research for our customers. We have this feature that does spawns an agent that does competitor research for the customer sign up for our business to help them with their creative strategy. That is currently done on Google, and so therefore the way that the links are ranked definitely matter. But again, what is the potential long-term validity of search when nobody's clicking SEM links? Then how is that going to work? Because the bots aren't clicking the links like the ads. So those are going to be I think longer-term implications. But for now, I think SEO does matter even in this kind of intermediary and agent world.
But you're doubling down on performance marketing, right? That's what Omneky is built around.
I think there will always be a market for advertising. People like free things, and so as long as people like free, the humans have a bias for free things, and so as long as people have a bias for free things, there's always going to be a market for advertising to monetize those free things, and then. People like attribution, so there will always be performance. I think there'll be more and more performance and attribution-related advertising, not less, because things you quantify are getting more and more every day. And then I think like the advertising itself just performs such an important function in generating demand in a capitalist world to bring new products to market, educate consumers about new offerings. That I don't think advertising is going anywhere. And then also just the profitability of these like auctions, like these attention auction systems is such that all these things, I think actually digital advertising revenue is predicted to grow pretty increasingly actually, I think like 8% year over year or something like this over the next year and then continue growth. So digital advertising is continuing to grow as an industry, and I think that's just going to continue especially now. If we enter this world, right, where now we have the the VR AR glasses, right? Like now there's an infinite number of places where you can now post ads, right? And if everyone is entering a world where everything's they're all wearing goggles, and like the potential monetization vector space of that universe is like infinitely larger than just us looking at our little phones and our little screens, right? So I think digital advertising is
the nature of ads will definitely change, but the need for companies to be able to communicate to consumers or with buyers will always be there, right?
Yes.
Whether it's a brand story or selling them product, there will always be that need.
Yeah, I mean, how else do new innovative products reach the consumer? I mean, like not everybody is an influencer, and influencers aren't always the best judges of great products, and so like it's going to be there's going to always be a need for advertising.
So you guys are available now on or powering Meta ads, Google ads, LinkedIn. Do you have plans to do TikTok, Amazon?
So we're on all those platforms. We're on Amazon. We're on TikTok.
Okay. What about like connected TV, OTT?
We're on connected TV as well. Actually,
Okay.
we run connected TV ads through a partnership.
Very cool.
Yeah, basically any platform that anyone's interested in running ads on, that's digital. We can create content for that platform, and we can integrate with that platform.
Fantastic. Any exciting features or product announcements you have coming up that you're looking forward to?
Well, we just made a big announcement this week regarding this large language model product, this brand, the brand, safe large language advertising large language model. There's a massive sprint towards enterprise LLMs. I think every company is releasing their commerce LLM or their marketing LLM, but I think there's going to be a very specific need and use case for advertising LLMs that's very specific to the use case of generating thousands of iterations of personalized content and creative and marketing strategies to orchestrate those like multi omni-channel personalized experiences while ensuring data security and brand security and speed and scale. And so that is an exciting announcement. And I think we're just this is like we're just in the early innings of this generative AI wave. Again, it's like how when Cisco hit an insane market valuation because everyone believed that the internet was going to be huge, and so there has to be some money in routers. And now NVIDIA, professing, there must be some, the generative AI is such a massive space, and that there must be some value in these chips. And then Cisco hitting a massive valuation, then pre-priced like multi-decades of innovation with internet. I think likewise we're going to see multi-decade innovation related to generative AI, and so it's just a very, very exciting time in place.
We're in the early innings here.
We're in the early innings, and such again is the the infinite creativity of humanity and humans, right? Like and the capitalist system that rewards it. That there will always be better, faster, newer things, and because humans get used to and get acclimated to what they have today, and they're now everyone thinks that the iPhone would be magic 10, 20 years ago, or the iPhone today is be magic 20 years ago, but now it's like, oh, this is, now they want more, right? People always want more. People are always
right.
There's that inherent striving for more that humanity and humans have, and the capitalist system rewards the entrepreneurs that can meet that always yearning human spirit. And so I think I think we're I'm very optimistic about things. I mean, obviously there has to be things done on the regulation side. There are things that have to be done, but again, we live in a democracy. I believe in the collective wisdom of humanity. I think we're going to figure these things out. And then I'm very optimistic.
If we had another hour, we can opine whether democracy and capitalism will survive AI, but that's for another day. We're at it.
Well, here's the thing regarding humanity, right? Is that the human neurons are there's about I think 80 billion neurons in the human brain, and each neuron is scalar, right? Like it's not binary. And so, GPT-4 has maybe 1 trillion parameters, but, the human brain is 80 billion neurons that are all kind of, the variations of those neural activations is actually much larger than, the trillion parameters that are binary. And so, I do think that, and then collectively, the collective humans, the 8 billion people collectively with the 80 billion neurons, the hundreds billion trillion neurons, AI is not going to enslave humanity anytime soon. Their compute power is still substantially less than the collective wisdom of humanity. And so I don't think we're anywhere close to, AI displacing humans or like, destroying democracy. I think there are things related to uh, regulation that needs to be done in terms of protecting the mechanism to have democracy thrive, and I think there are some regulations that probably need to be changed, but that doesn't stop my enthusiasm in believing in empowering, always on the side of empowering humans to do more. I think is generally a good bet.
I love it. Your optimism and enthusiasm is contagious, and I share that optimism, and I'm excited for what's coming. And the world that my kids are growing up in is going to be very different than how we grew up. We close out with a traditional lightning round, which I'm going to ask you a few questions. Tell me the first thing that comes to your mind in under 60 seconds. Sound good?
Sure.
All right. What's one productivity hack that you swear by?
Sleep.
8 hours?
Yes. And exercise. I think sleep and exercise are important.
Amazing. What's a book, podcast, and or newsletter that you find yourself recommending most often?
Gosh, I so like it's like choosing my favorite kid or something. I a number of books that I love. I definitely suggest reading as many books as possible. Especially, I love biographies. I think you always want to live life as if this is your second or third time at the game, right? Like the first time you play the game, you fail, you die, and you're like, "Fuck, that was my first time." And sometimes people live life like that, right? But like you want to play like this is your third time, so you can actually like win all the things. Like I think biographies are like a cheat code to life. Like if you can read through other people's way, other people play the game of their quote unquote game like of life, like you can then know where the trap holes are, and the booby holes are, the mistakes people make and mistakes people regret. And so just reading as many biographies of people, learning their lessons, that can then make sure that when you go and see similar situations in your life, you know the cheat codes. And so definitely just a massive fan of reading biographies.
Love that.
Definitely suggest just reading.
For those who love biographies, there's a great podcast called Founders.
That's
David
great. I love that one. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's a great one.
Love it. Cool. What's a popular misconception that people have about you?
Popular misconception that people have about me. That I'm like some. I'm not. I think there's this misconception maybe that I'm like a really aggressive hustler because I'm like a serial entrepreneur or something like this. Like I genuinely, I think part of being successful long-term in life is consistently doing the thing that you say you're going to do and doing it well and in many ways, under delivering and over promising consistently. And so, I have a very long-term vision and view of my career and my life. And, I try to, approach every relationship in a long-term way. And I don't know. I mean, I always fear that, because I'm an entrepreneur and, people kind of, have different views of entrepreneurs but like, I think long-term success is a function of just, being a person of your word and doing the thing you're going to say you're going to do and like operating honorably. And so, I do want to make sure that I always act in accordance to, living with honor.
Fantastic. What's one thing you'd like to change about the venture startup world?
I don't think there's enough venture capital, frankly, in the world, right? I mean, I actually think that the whole crypto wave, when anybody can invest in a crypto startup, was a reflection of the demand that people have investing in startups that they couldn't really do because they can't invest in traditional startups because there's all these regulations related to investing in startups. And therefore, they would invest in these opaque things and securities that seem like startups were all mostly scams. And so I think that like if we can just maybe change regulation a bit or something like this. Obviously, there needs to be consumer protection. There are a lot of scammers out there. You have to protect yourself. You have to protect consumers. But like, I think right now there are I think there's a lot greater demand. Like I think there's a lot greater demand to investing and supporting startups that it shouldn't just be limited to high net worth individuals, but that there does need to be some kind of regulation clarity regarding, and obviously some safeguards established regarding that. But yeah, I think still like the limitations for financing innovation is there's more demand.
Yeah, the accredited investor laws are pretty restricting.
Yeah, and I think the reflection of the crypto. I mean, the whole crypto boom was essentially all like average retail consumers like wanting to invest in innovation but not being able to. So they were investing in this other thing that was like not like very different. And so if we could just put that energy into actual like startups that are like innovating in healthcare, innovating in life extension, innovating, what it is doing, benefiting humanity, innovating, empowering, entrepreneurs and like they think of all the cool products we can see in the market if we can empower them. And there will be scams obviously, but like I don't know, I think kind of like in the late 1880s and the American industrial boom and such like this. But I don't know, I think there is a lot more demand investing in startups than there currently is actually available for entrepreneurs to raise money for.
Love it. Thank you, Hikari. I've enjoyed this so much. Final closing question. How can people reach you, and if they want to continue the conversation, and any final words you want to share with the audience?
Sure, yeah. Anybody can email me at hi@omneky.com or follow me on Twitter. Yeah, I mean, gosh, final words. I think it comes down to, if you're an entrepreneur, just don't give up. I think the biggest thing that differentiates, I think, a person who's successful, person who doesn't succeed, is just that they didn't give up. And so, and success comes in all different. It's never too late. It's never too late. Some of the best companies were founded by people in their 50s and 60s. And so, don't give up. It's never too late. Don't lose faith. And yeah, have faith. I think that's very important.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. I wish you tons of success with Omneky and with everything else. And we'll definitely have to stay in touch.
Thank you, Moshe. Same here. I'm very excited to stay in touch. And
talk to you soon.
And I really enjoyed having this conversation. And thank you so much for this opportunity.